Hey everybody, thank you for listening to Filling in the Gaps. Be sure to check us out on our social media pages at Filling in the Gaps. From there you can get updates on show releases and anything special we may be doing. Sit back and enjoy the show. Should be a lot of fun.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Filling in the Gaps. My name is Rich and I'm from the heartland state of Ohio and joined as always by my good friend Cam from down in Texas. Over the next hour, we're going to take a random theme and a random scenario and combine them. And in doing so, we'll hopefully give you some kind of idea that will spark a session for your next game night. Now, Cam, we have not done an episode in what seems like forever. I know we actually missed our Monday launch date last week because I was at camp and you've been working like crazy. So it's good to be on mic with you again, my friend. I've missed you.
I missed you too, man. I'm exhausted. I'm actually not, because I got a lot of sleep after, working a collective 60 hours in 3 days. But yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to do that again. I would prefer to be able to get home and record and do our podcast because I quite enjoy this, like a lot. I really do. It's a lot of fun for me. So, it's good though. And sorry we're late, everybody. Obviously, we would like to have been able to release a little bit earlier than this, but life comes at you fast. Maybe one day when we're selling out stadiums to 50 million listeners, and everybody's like, do a live podcast. Y'all are so great. Then we won't have any issues.
Exactly. You know what, Cam? In the meantime, we just have to roll with the punches. I'm sorry, everyone. Don't stop listening. Don't stop listening, please.
Oh man. No, it's good to be back. It's good to be recording, and it is awesome to be able to tell some stories and just sort of more or less dive back into the things that we like to do. Like, for example, some of the things that I enjoy doing is more or less just, well, let me think about it. I like playing basketball. I like playing football. Oh, what was that last thing?
Now I feel bad because you're saying all these athletic things.
I like to Street Fighter. I like to play Street Fighter and get into actual street fights. Oh, and one more thing, Rich. Shall we roll?
Let's do it. So what me and Cam are about to do.
That didn't make any sense. No, people are going to be like,
what? Huh?
What is he talking about?
I think his grammar shut down for a second. For a second. Oh my!
Are we in a sports podcast now?
Yeah. But what we are about to do is we're going to take two random tables that we've created. A lot of them from recommendations from some of our listeners. I'm going to be rolling for our theme today, and Cam will be rolling for our scenario. And out of these two rolls, we'll determine the brainstorming we're going to be doing over the next hour. So, Cam, I've got my Christmas-colored dice, and I'm ready to roll whenever you are, friend.
I've got a green and yellow die.
Ooh.
It's very tie-dye. It's like peace and love, man. 1973, brother.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. All right, let's do this.
Ooh, a 15.
Nice. Dude, I rolled a 15 as well. That's the first time.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. And it's going to be so good. Oh my gosh.
That's a really crazy one.
Okay, now before we go ahead and say what we actually roll, because I'm really excited for this one, I have to let all of you fine listeners know about something you need to know about. Do you like dice? We do. We just rolled two of them, and then I ate it right afterwards because that's how much I love dice. But if you eat your dice too, if you have a problem staying full of dice, then do I have the service for you. We actually are sponsored by Libris Arcana Dice. That's Libris arcanadice.com. Yeah, they're on the internet. Have you heard of it? With our sponsorship code of FITG, you can get 25% off an order of a month's set of dice every month. So they will ship you one set of dice every month. Or you can get 3 sets of dice shipped to you every 3 months. And that's 25% off with the promo code FITG. Now, Cam, what was the result of our rolls? Let's tell the listeners.
Of our 15s.
Of our two 15s.
I'm sort of over the moon. Okay, so brought to us by My Little Owlbear / Joel. They told me my second attempt at it was right, but I can't remember my second attempt. I'm going to say Joel. I think is it, is a theater or film production. So they both gave us sort of a similar idea, and so that's why they're both getting credit this week. Thank you very much, both of you. Also, brought to us by the great and wonderful Molly, is on number 15, stopping a plague/infection on a theater or film production set. Now, dude, it's got a lot of little trinkets going off in my mind for sure. But yes, I want to get your initial thoughts on it because I'm always the one doing initial thoughts.
Okay,
I think it's your turn this time.
Okay, so I actually there's this great YouTube channel called Extra Credits. If you are interested in game design, or if you are interested in history or in science fiction, they actually have a bunch of content they pump out. And recently, in one of their series called Extra History, they went over the flu plague that struck right after World War II, and just how undercovered it was. Not undercovered like people were trying to hide it, although people were, but just how it isn't part of our history. We don't talk about this very detrimental plague. And one of the things that time and time again had an impact on the spread of the flu was public gatherings. Whenever there was for instance, when the armistice got signed in World War II and when there was temporary peace, people flooded the streets and everyone would get sick and go home and turn purple because their lungs were filling with fluid. Or whenever there was like a large gathering of people, there was several cities that were throwing these festivals, and these doctors begged with them not to throw these festivals, and they did anyway. And in doing so, like thousands of people died because of it. And that, in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is so perfect. It sounds just like something that happened in like our actual history. But I don't know. What about you? What's going on in your head?
Part of me is like Invasion of Body Snatchers sort of mindset. I want this to have the aesthetic of like an old school film to me, like a director yelling through a handheld cone, going like, "I need quiet on the set. See, I need quiet on the set," and he has like a mustache and all those different things. But there's a monster that actually comes to mind, and Matt Colville's talked about this before, but sloths. Have you ever heard of sloths before?
I have heard of sloths.
And I want you to see where I'm going with this. I'm going based off of the infection type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So sloths have the ability to take the form of other humanoids, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I'm wondering is there any kind of disease that we could create maybe inside this movie? And maybe sloths is the wrong direction to take it. I'm just thinking to myself, like, if they take the form of people, it creates this idea of like the large crowd of different people, and then it could be a very well like a trap that's being sprung by a bunch of people. But here's what I'm sort of running into a wall with is the film itself a movie about these things, or is it a plague or infection that is happening on this movie set?
That's more what I like, that idea. Well, I even like the idea too of, I know the word production is in theme, but sometimes we break these themes a little bit. I love the idea of this being something where similar to during World War II, like maybe there's people who are aware that this plague is out there, this contagion is out there, but for whatever reason, like the show must go on. There's like, we can't stop this play or this theater production from going on, and so because of that, like, I don't know, the players could be there trying to keep things in line, or it could just be something that the players are there doing. And enjoying, and in the midst of it, this plague is breaking out. Because like the flu, like that happened over the course of a few days. This could be a festival. I like the idea of a parade too, like after a successful war, or a dragon's been killed. There's this huge parade, and maybe, especially,
there could be like a show that always culminates at the end of this parade. Yeah, and then through that, the infection is revealed. Actually, what about like if we're talking inspiration, what about like World War Z? Because I like the idea of like an infection being quick and instantaneous, so it's on you like white on rice in terms of like how fast it happens. And so maybe your players are enjoying, this could be the end of one quest, maybe the reward of one quest, right, of like spending some time with like a diplomat or somebody in a higher up setting, and now you're enjoying a film production or a theater production or something like that, a show.
Yeah.
And then on the outside you start hearing screams and banging on the walls, and it's like sort of that classic zombies feel as you start to see things like sort of spilling into the theater, and your players are having to fight themselves off as they, or fight, others off as they also see, a lot of these patrons that were at this show being turned to these sort of infected types of beings as well, sort of like a swarm of sorts.
Yep. No, I like that. I'm trying to think too. There's actually a creature called it's in Volo's Guide to Monster. It's called a
see, I don't have that book yet. I'm not cool enough.
I got all those cool books, but it's called a Catoblepas. I have no idea. Catoblepas. And it's a creature that is it gives off a large stench. It's associated with blight and death. It actually has an effect on an area and causes like an area to decay and animals to have like kind of plague-likeness to them. But I love this creature, and it itself is unaligned. It's kind of just a dumb animal. It's not like a aggressive being. It just has an effect on the environment. And it says that, some warlocks or dark knights might domesticate them or use them as mounts, that some hags might keep them as pets.
What is it called again?
It's a Catoblepas. Catobleus. I don't know if that's how you say it. But it like...
Oh, okay. I'm looking at it now.
So to help you picture it, it's essentially a orange cow with a longer neck and tusks. But I
actually love this, and it's huge too.
Yeah, it is. It's large. So maybe it's something where this play is going on, and especially if we do something with a dark knight or a warlock, or I like the idea of a dark knight. Like, okay, what if this theater is putting on a play, and it's an old play? And maybe like it's been forgotten to the ages. It's a beautiful play. The music in it is stunning. The story in it is moving. And this director finds this ancient play. And he's like, why is no one doing this play? Or maybe he's even being warned not to because there's this stigma about the play. It's got this stigma like you don't perform that play. Like it's bad luck. It's beautiful, but it's bad luck.
Right.
And maybe it's because out there is this death knight or this warlock who the play is about him, and maybe it's a play about his life.
It's like tempting fate. It's like tempting fate by doing this play. Exactly.
So maybe the players catch wind of this. Maybe like not the director of the play, but like the organizer, like the producer of it is like, hey, I can't get this director not to do this play. He's kind of crazy with it. If you guys are able to kind of just be at this play and keep an eye on things, I really appreciate it. I'll
and
get
this
you a
dark
cut.
knight, like rides this Catoblepas into town.
Oh yeah, and people are just like, flu symptoms. I love, dude. The flu is terrifying, man. Like it was like people's skin will start to turn like patchy and blue. They would gurgle and just drown inside their own body. Like that's terrifying.
Yes. Right. Well, I almost like the idea of like an infection, like a parasitic type of infection as well, where some people or maybe even animals are affected by this in a way that creates aggression, or from a parasitic perspective, like control from that dark night. And so then you create scenarios where now, as the players are trying to rid the town of this guy or this dark knight, they're also having to deal with his parasites essentially, And then it goes back to, remember the Rakshasa episode where it's, we kill them? Can we make it to where we can heal them?
Yep.
And so, yeah, okay. I'm actually liking the way this is going
Which,
right now.
here's another thing, too. If any of you listeners out there ran I know someone out there said they ran Rakshasa Horror Picture Show.
Which, by the way, but can we just say this real quick? That is amazing. I haven't had a chance to say that, but someone said their sister's first game ever was played using the Rakshasa Horror Picture Show, which was mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, that they chose that. I know.
Like,
that.
I was just sitting there like, oh my god, that was something that we had a great time creating, and now someone's using it. Thank you very much. That's amazing. Continue, Rich. Sorry to interrupt.
But maybe if you're listening out there, person who ran that, I know someone out there said that the Rakshasa got away. This could be something, this idea of a play, if the Rakshasa is still out there for you guys and you want to bring him back as a villain, like maybe it's a play about your characters and someone out there is just really spiteful and they want to ruin this. Maybe it's a parade about something your characters have done. Any kind of large gathering of people is great to bring an infection about. And if you don't want to have it be like boom, bow, fight right there, you could have it be more of an infection where people get together. Like even like a Catoblius could be something that's under like a parade float or something. And people just start like getting sick and dying and no one can find out where this disease is coming from. And you start tracking things down.
We're sort of, in essence, creating a sequel here, and I kind of love it.
It could be. It could be a sequel if the Rakshasa got away.
I actually love the idea of the Rakshasa being the big bad, and their if they got away, right? But if it's like their spite of like having to witness their first failure has caused them to yet again try to deceive the town through a celebration, and so that's what I was like. The thing carrying a float is a great idea in my mind.
I will say too, and I know that this is kind of, we're getting all over the place, kind of scatterbrained, but I did flip to Death Knight in the Monsters Manual.
Okay.
And sometimes in the Monster Manual they give you like
we're still in the brainstorming phase, so I'm okay with it.
True. They give you a little like pre-made like, hey, maybe use this. And so a Death Knight is like a paladin that falls from grace and dies without seeking his atonement. And they give you this pre-made one called Lord Soth. So here's the story of Lord Soth. Now imagine this as a play being performed. Lord Soth began his fall from grace when with an act of heroism, saving an elf named Isolade from an ogre. Soth and Isolade fell in love, but Soth was already married. He had a servant, disposed of his wife, and was charged with murder, but fled with his new wife Isolade. When his castle fell under siege, he prayed for guidance and was told that he must atone for his misdeeds by completing a quest, but growing fears about Isolade's fidelity caused him to abandon his quest. Because his mission was not accomplished, a great cataclysm swept the land. When Isolade gave birth to a son, Soth refused to believe that the child was his, probably because he's just like, who else are you sleeping with? And he slew them both. All were incinerated in a fire that swept through the castle, yet Soth would find no rest in death, becoming a Death Knight. And this cataclysm that swept the land, what if it was pestilence? What if it was a disease? And what if they're putting on this play of Isolade and Soth, the forbidden love that ended very Shakespearean with both of them dying?
Yeah, it's super Shakespearean.
Yeah. And then what if he's okay, so Death Knights, here's the other thing. Death Knights are challenge rating 17. So if it's a higher level party, just have him show up and have it be a fight. But if it's a lower level party, what if the only way to pacify Soth and to get him to leave is if the play is fully performed? So it's not so much like fighting him, it's keeping this pestilence from killing the actors, or maybe even an actor dies and now your player has to perform as they fight. And if you're able to survive so many rounds as this play goes on and deliver these lines, then boom, Soth is pacified, his eyes kind of change color, and he just like goes on.
Yes. Yeah, essentially he is drawn by the play, and if the play is not to his liking, it's essentially like if it's not completed, if people don't have the will or the strength or the stamina to complete his play in his presence, essentially, then obviously it's, death comes from that as well. But it also presents some really cool fights as well, because like then you have to fight like the representation of his wife, maybe.
Yep.
Through a spirit inside that play or something as well.
Yeah, but I love the idea of Soth showing up, because anytime people start speaking of him and his wife and his child, who, you know, he doesn't even think is his, he just gets so enraged that he just knows. There's in a lot of literature, there's this idea of like the power of a name. Even in D&D, there's this idea that like the demons, like there's power in knowing their names. I know Patrick Rothfuss says that there's these beings in his universe he's created where if their true name is mentioned, they just know, and they show up and kill anybody who knows about it. So maybe Lord Soth, when he hears this play, he just instinctively knows that like I've got to like show up and just kill everything. I hate this story. I hate this part of myself. He doesn't want atonement. He just wants
reprieve from being summoned. Essentially, he wants people to forget his name.
Yep, it just fills him with so much rage. So your players are hired by this, you know, not the director of the play, because he's kind of mad. He's got that director like, oh, this is all. No one just performs this play because it's too difficult. Yeah. This is art. Yeah, exactly. It's a story worth telling. But maybe there's someone there who does hire you, whether it's an actor who's very like nervous about playing the part of Isolade, or whether it's someone who just says like, hey, you know, I have a bad feeling about this, or there's rumors.
You could have
about
a survivor
this play.
from a town that already had this play go through.
That's true.
And they survived. You know,
that's true.
And they could be like, you can't let this happen. You can't let this play go through. You know, it's just it's so interesting to me because there's so many different layers to it, right? Where, you know, if you expose this play to a large crowd, maybe this is a well-renowned director who's, you know, known to bring about great things to each town that they hold plays in, and everybody is excited because he's releasing this new play that someone hasn't seen in many years, and you know, he's brought up the biggest name actors. It's a really cool, fun thing because it creates some really fun little role-playing moments, you know, of like, here's a celebrity type of D&D character, NPC that you could sort of introduce, like a really well-known actress or actor that could be playing, you know, one of the characters from this as well.
So I'm looking at things that a Death Knight can do as well. So Death Knights are magically resistant. They're magically resistant. Sorry, that just just popped in my mind like that. They can marshal undead. So unless the Death Knight is incapacitated, it and undead creatures of its choice within 60 feet have advantage on saving throws. So there could be undead there. Or if we're saying that the cataclysm associated with him is pestilence, I like the idea of using like not just like your classic undead, but maybe more like flood-like undead, or like undead that are just like.
What about like blights?
Yeah,
like actual, you know, little almost like swampish type of blights, like or fine even, blights, twig blights.
I know I'm going into a third book now. The newest D&D book on monsters, Mordekainen's Tomb of Foes, actually has a type of creature that is like all just made up of worms. And now I don't think we necessarily use that creature's lore because it's associated with a certain like demonic pact. But I like the idea of this like this virus infecting people and just being all about worms and like people's bodies just like falling out, and this bacteria or this parasite's growing out of them. Let's see. Yeah, Starspawn, the larva mages.
Oh my God, that sounds creepy.
Yeah. But, okay, so the spell casting that this thing can do is it can cast Command, Compelled Duel, which that's a cool one, to do like a compelled duel on stage. So what if he shows up in the middle of this play, and you already know that the Catabara, the disease cow is there. People are dying. You're like fending off. You know at this point that these people are infected, and you're keeping them out. You're making sure that they get out of the play. Maybe there is even some kind of like charm effect. So like the play is making them sick, but people like have to get in. Like there's this itch in the back of their mind that like, no, you have to hear this story. So you're like pacifying people at the door or trying to keep them away or just straight up killing them to keep them from infecting everybody else who's in there, which is like the king, all the rulers of the town. And then, you know, Lord Soth shows up. he bursts in through somehow, even if he just straight up drops in through the ceiling on the stage, and he compelled duels, whatever, like the guy playing him, and he assumes his role in the play as he's trying to like kill everybody else.
Right. So this is like and this guy could be, because especially in like olden times, great actors were more or less just legendary people in general, and so he could be a legendary warrior that has been then consumed and sort of possessed by Lord Soth to fight, and so your players are like, whoa.
So you're saying it's not even so much that Lord Soth is physically there, but just that he possesses the actual actor?
Yeah.
Dude, I love that. Yeah. That's so good.
Because here's how I'm thinking about it. He's sort of like, if we're thinking of film production and we're thinking of like a director of sorts, maybe Lord Soth wants the story to play out in the way that he would like for it to, like he wishes it would have. Like, I wish the story would have gone this way. But if I can't have it this way, then maybe these plays, these people that represent me, they could be essentially showing, the story that I want to be told. So he's like changing his past through future storytelling. And
he's using, because here's his first level spells, which shoot, you can give him more, but he's got command and he's got compel duel. And then he's got like hold person, a few other types of spells. What if he, going off of what you were saying, he shows up and there's however many players are in your party, there are that many roles that are important to this play.
Correct.
Just make that the thing. You might get some experience writing a play. If you're DMing this episode. But
so this is sort of the beginning, though, more or less. Like, he approaches the town after the director has said, I want to create this play. I want to do this play.
Even if it's just in his even if it's just in his astral form and he's just kind of there prowling around waiting for things to happen. But when the play starts, he shows up, he possesses his character, and then he's making all the other people perform this play through his point of view. Where Isolate is now this tramp who's going about and cheating behind his back, and everyone's whispering about him or not appreciating him. And the director, now privy on what's going on, along with this guy who hired you, like they're like, hey, all these people are in a trance. People around us are going mad and they're dying from this disease. But if we don't perform this play as written, not as he's performing it, but as written, then like all of these people will die, or Lord Soth will just like kill all of us or something. So then your characters are like, so the director's like, so you have to go up there and you have to perform as you're like fighting Lord Soth, as people are, and maybe not even on the stage, but around the room. Like you could have your, barbarian holding the door closed, like shouting lines from there. You could have your, you could have your cleric like going around like curing people as he's like, but Lord Soth, don't you know? And just like doing these different things. And you could even,
but Hawk, through window wake, dude, Lord Soth is the east, and his wife is the south.
And his wife
she's
is the
dirty
south.
And nothing. She's no good nothing lady.
But you could even
like, I put that line in there.
I put that line in there.
What did you think about that?
Wrote that myself. But you could even have like kind of a play pre-written up, and have it like at least the lines, at least some lines. If you're doing this session, please at least have some lines written up, and you give it to the characters on note cards as the director, being like, okay, here's your lines. When I point at you, you got to say it. That could be.
It's essentially like the ritual to remove the infection from the town, and also remove Soth from the town as well.
Dude, the other perfect thing that this does is if there's like an enraged type mechanic where Soth, doesn't want this play to go on, so he even kind of focuses on the person who said their last line. That way, and that will keep the damage like spread around. It won't just be like it won't just be like, oh, I'm just going after this person. With that being said, if you're doing this for a lower level party, please do not just use an as written Death Knight. Unless you have a bard there, unless the director or the other performers are bards and are able to cast support spells, which could be cool. But yeah, that way
This is actually, it's funny because you don't find a lot of missions that are nice for bards.
Yeah.
But I feel like this one would actually be a really cool mission for a bard. Like a bard would be like, ho, 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 I am in my zone.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what you got for me? And then they get like the backup line or something like that because the director's enamored with this beefy barbarian of your group or something. And then your bard's like trying to get the limelight back.
Or
I
even
just think it's a... Go ahead.
Even the idea too of your bard having to, like, if Soth if you have a bard, if Soth shows up and he begins, like, he just charms or commands, or his disease possesses the people performing the music, the people in the pit, like your bard having to like battle their music, which sounds weird. But he has to like.
Oh,
play
you're
the
talking
correct...
about like the actual orchestra of the play itself.
Yeah, and he's got to like kind of musically battle them.
That's amazing.
There's
okay,
a
let's
lot
talk about that. Let's go through some of those scenarios then, right? So
Okay.
like the beginning of the story is the accidental summoning of this demonic death knight that wants to essentially change the story that has been written about him for many years. And so his way of doing so is possession, and through a distracting infection throughout the town, obviously pestilence, as he rides in. I mean, he could legitimately ride on the horse of pestilence. Like it could be
True.
the horse of death.
Yeah.
And so as things are like falling in shambles around him, he's keeping his focus on this, and it's like on this play, and it's sort of his way of changing the narrative, if you will. He doesn't want any fake news. So
Fake news.
Yeah.
We've got the best plays.
Ever. The best plays you've ever seen in your entire life. So so from there, then you've got these really cool little pre-made scenarios, like what you said, with a bard could battle the band that is playing, music that could be magically imbued to either do harm or gain control over some of your players or whatever it may be. What other certain things could you see? Because part of me is if this play is in the mind of Lord Soth, then the physical actors or the representations of the characters that he wants portraying, they are, if they're on the opposite end against him, whereas he might be portrayed as a noble knight, his wife might be portrayed as like this demonic hag that could be, I don't know how you would do that really, in terms of like a scenario, but that's sort of like how I'm envisioning in this, is like he's trying to create his perfect image of this story, and through that he's trying to make the other things that were against him as negative as they possibly can be.
What if... Okay, so as you're talking, some things I'm picturing, as I'm trying to picture like, classic, play structure. Like you've got your beginning, you've got the rising action, you've got the climax, you've got the actions after that, and then the resolution.
Correct.
What if Soth doesn't show up immediately? Like, what if there's this line in the play? Like, what if Soth doesn't show up until like the second act? Or what if like the climax of the play is like when Soth enters the room? And there's like this specific line that says like or like the doors open, the doors swing open, and this certain character says like oh, it's Soth, or oh look, like something like that, some kind of like hark, and
right.
hark, it's Lord Soth. And when that gets said, like that character then gets possessed. And maybe the character is even around, maybe the character playing Soth is even there, but something about that line in this part of the play makes it so like Soth like himself possesses the character.
Right. It could be like Soth could be like, I have returned, and then as the character's saying that, you see his hands sort of like crinkle up, and then he's his head twitches to the side.
I love that.
Eyes begin glowing red, and everybody in the crowd's like, ooh, special effects. This is amazing.
I love these special illusionary effects.
Yeah.
But what
then he starts going off script.
Yeah. So what if in the beginning, though, they have this this moment where Soth is off doing something, and the other characters are just establishing Soth's character, and maybe how he's given up maybe you start after he's left his wife or something like that. So they're just talking about Soth and all these things he's done wrong. But maybe there's this part of the play where, Soth comes in, and one of the lines that gets changed in the play, just the actor kind of shakes their head and says something different, is instead of saying like Isolade is his beloved, and like the two of them like are just so madly in love with each other, maybe the character says like Isolade is his beloved, but she's also everyone's beloved. And maybe at that point, that's when like in the crowd there's this restlessness. People in the crowd, people in like the street start getting very like anxious, and they start like making their way to the play, or people in the crowd even just start like standing up, and that combat that's about to ensue is as like punishment for Isolade's character, because Soth sees her as being like everyone loves her, and she's like she's very open, she's very like
it's
sleeping.
Almost as if
go ahead.
It's as if his emotions are like flowing through the crowd like an infection.
Exactly.
In a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then like this
really
encounter
like
is like you've got to be on stage or in the crowd like pacifying these people who are just like wanting to chase after and grab onto this actress playing Isolade. Right. And it's kind of like maybe even zombie-ish. Maybe they're even out of it. Maybe their eyes are discolored.
Right. Which is perfect for like a plague type of infection.
Exactly.
Considering that's our scenario.
Yep.
Right.
And that's the perfect thing
that I really love that it taps into his emotions. So his emotions are conveyed through the actions of a crowd.
Yep.
In a lot of ways. I really love that.
So I think that could be definitely a rising action. I'm trying to think of other things that could happen, other characters. Okay, so this guy's a paladin. So you could do like a great battle. Obviously he's going to think highly of himself, and so he maybe, because Lord Soth can summon skeletons, or he has like a skeleton army, he could have these skeletons show up on stage that are adorned in these like valiant, sort of like, I guess more or less. Armor and stuff like that, and then he could say, command a battle out of the people, and maybe by this point, he's noticed your players as the people who are trying to sort of satiate this, and so he commands battle out of them with these 5, skeletons, and maybe the actor on stage acting as like the main Soth character of sorts. Dude, okay, hear me out too. If you want to do one big creature, I love the idea of the skeletons though, especially them being dressed up. Like that could be, we have to do something with that. Because I do love that idea of like these skeletons like playing parts even, or even chanting things.
Because I feel like skeletons are a big part of Soth, and I love the idea that we've already got like a fleshed out NPC. That he's a big time part of D&D lore, which is pretty cool to me.
But I mean, D&D lore is all about you putting your twist on it.
Yes, exactly. And so him being in a play, I'm sure maybe has been done, but not to the extent of what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
Because we're the greatest human beings of all time.
Exactly. Ugh, right? But there's another creature. There's a demon. It's called a Vrock. It's a large fiend. It's a challenge rating 6, so it's not too hard. But for a low level party, it might be. But then again, you don't even have to fight it to death. This is just in a play. So they are talking about this battle. And as it happens, like Lord Soth summons this demon onto the actual stage. But what it can do is it has multi-attack, it has a beak, it has talons, but it has an ability called Spores, which I have not even read yet. A 15-foot cloud of toxic spores extends out from the Vrock. The spores spread around corners, and each creature in that area must succeed a Constitution saving throw or become poisoned, which gives them, I think, disadvantage on attacks. While poisoned in this way, they take 5 damage at the start of each of their turns. And that's pretty much it. It just talks about how to cure it after that. But I could even play off the whole pestilence thing too. Is like, they're like, there's this person who's like meeting Lord Soth, or there's this person in like this castle, and it's like, Lord Soth, like known for the battle of this, or like he alone in single combat slayed a mighty Vrock, and as that happens, like you see Lord Soth's character, this guy playing him, on stage, and this like tapestry is pulled down that's supposed to, or this illusion, because there is illusion magic in D&D. So there's this bard creating this illusion of this rock, but then all of a sudden, like, the bard, like, kind of like, oh, he's off stage, like, and you see him struggling, and then you see this thing, like, not just float on stage, but it, like, stomps into the ground, and it, like, and you get this, you, like, it could even just be like, roll initiative or see what you do. Like, you let them know, like, this thing is now real, so your players have to step on stage, and that guy has to keep acting and keep delivering his lines as you are, like, fighting this rock.
He's like, wow, this thing is, like, super realistic. Did somebody okay this with the studio, or what's going on here?
And that could be a cool thing too, is even, like, to have something minor happen, which maybe even the very beginning of all of this is that, like, maybe Lord Soth doesn't show up himself, but the very beginning of all of this is the play starts, people have their seats, the music starts, and in the very few opening lines of the play, of this monologue happening, maybe it's the lead character who says it or whatever, there's this monologue, it opens up, and when that happens, all of a sudden, like, all the either the doors close or the lights, like, get crazy for a second, like, they plume huge, like, plumes of fire, and maybe you hear like Lord Soth's voice, or you hear this laugh, and there's this moment of, like, everyone realizing, like, oh crap, we've done something terrible. And so maybe in the very beginning you're establishing this idea of, like, we have to finish this play. Like, maybe the play even pauses, and maybe part of this too is your characters convincing all these actors, like, you have to go on, we can protect you, but
the show must go on.
But the show must go on, and the crowd has to stay there to see it through. That way, when all of these things happen, it's not just like, oh, whoa, crazy, but you're kind of, like, always on edge, and you don't know what part of the play is going to have something attached to it that you're going to have to fight or deal with.
Right. Exactly. You know what makes me excited about the Vrock is that it's a vulture, which sort of plays perfectly into the idea of, like, it's picking on the bones of the dead, and so it's perfectly right into that plague and infection sort of feeling. So it just creates that overall feel. You know, as I'm thinking about this, right, I do think I picture this mostly taking place on a stage. Most of this stuff happening. You know, it could be a large stage that has, you know, done a bunch of different props and you know, different things on the stage that could be utilized for whatever it may be. But that's how I envision this, really, is a stage with a lot of chairs sort of flowing up to it, and a large crowd that's sort of possessed, or at least very, very sickly, and it's like you're doing a lot of different things. Like, you're juggling, protecting, you know, the higher up people in this crowd. You're protecting the actors. You're trying to maintain the play. So in a lot of ways, your characters have become the director, right? It's like herding cats. That's what they say directing is like herding cats. And so for your players, they're just, you know, oh, we've got to still be over here and we've got to still be over there. But I think the key
what's going to happen next? Yeah,
but the key is they're always thinking what is going to happen next. They're always, like, on edge, and they're always thinking, which is the key component to it all. You're just trying to make them think about what it is that they need to do. So what's the resolution? What happens when the play finalizes, and, you know, and your players follow through with it? Like, how are they going to do this? What's the final last hurrah? You know, is the climax seeing Soth, but, like, what's their way out?
I think,
besides the straight up fight.
Well, I think the straight up fight is the way out, but it's not like straight up fight to defeat Soth. I think the resolution is, like, where your characters have to become the actors. So, like, Soth himself possesses the main actor, and begins just, like, going mad. So he starts, like, attacking other people, and he just himself, worst comes to worst, he doesn't want the play to go on, or he wants it to finish it his way. So it could even just be he's on stage himself monologuing or yelling or saying all this other stuff, and the director's like, we have to finish this play if we're going to lift this curse. So that's where it's like you're dishing out the lines to everybody, and people are like, we can't go out there and fight this dude. Like, he is like Soth right now. He's not like some weak actor. Like, he's materializing armor and like changing as we speak. So then like
it's essentially like a Voldemort situation. He's like really just peeking through in all ways, shapes, and forms.
Exactly. But once again, it's not that they have to kill him. It's just that they have to survive so many rounds. And you as the DM are kind of riding that line of, I want my players to feel like this really is hurting and that they might not make it, but I also want them to like read these lines and win. You just want it to be hard. So I think that's the resolution, is them finishing the lines of the play. And I think the lines of this play too, I imagine Soth is like you said, a very emotional character. Obviously he was very paranoid, which I think comes from guilt, comes from thinking that people are like talking behind his back. So I think the last part of this play is resolving everything that's happened. So at this point, he's already killed his wife. He's already killed his child in this play, and the fire is sweeping through the city. Oh, dude. Okay, so everyone in the castle died because of a fire. So the stage is now like actually on fire. Everyone is like getting zapped a little bit every turn because the fire's happening. But you have to be like, the original part of the play was supposed to look like it was on fire, and all of the characters from the play were supposed to say like what Soth did to them. And so you have to go out there, and as you're fighting Soth, like one character has to be like, Soth's first wife or something like that, and say like, I loved Soth unconditionally, but my love wasn't enough, and that's just the line that has to get said. The other person is isolated,
and each time he's like, it's like when someone rips open a curtain on a vampire, and he's like, no,
exactly.
And like it's like that feeling to him. He's like, I can't bear the memory of what that was.
Exactly. And he just that's turns amazing. On them. Another one could be like, I was Soth's closest like combat brother, and he stabbed me in the back. Or I was isolated, could say like, Soth was the apple of my eye. He was the soul of all my affection. But he couldn't like receive the love that I was giving him, or the child could...
The last line has to be this. The last line by the son. It has to be short and sweet, and like you have to give it to the last character right before they are able to strike him away through this line. It has to be, and I was your son.
Yep.
And then he goes,
no,
and like a tear, no, and then it's just Darth Vader screaming. Exactly.
But I love that, and I think the thing that has to be going on too, the thing that add the pressure, because I think having the pressure of like everyone in this room might die, including like the king who's here, or all these officials, or our loved ones, whatever. I think that the longer this play goes on, and if it doesn't get finished, like remember this, there's this pestilence. There's people just like dropping in the streets as well. Like this plague is just sweeping through the town, and Soth's intent is to just perform this play until everyone outside the theater is dead, and then at that point he will then kill everyone inside the theater for putting on this play about all the things that he did wrong.
Right.
So you can't your characters can't just be like, well, let's rest up after every battle. Oh man, I'm feeling kind of sleepy. Let's take a long rest.
No, it's and it's easy mechanically to do something like that because you could just put a turn counter on percentages. So it's like, okay, if the play lasts for, let's say if we finish it on very hard difficulty, that baseline is 15 turns or 10 turns or something like that. That is 100% of people survive, and the king survives, and the play is done, and Soth is removed. If you go to 20 turns, well, there's 25% of your people are dead, and the king is now sick, or you just create these
and you have to find the cure.
Effects.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, cool. Now we can easily transition into other stories, but these turn counters can just easily be applied to percentages of dead people, or how many are left, or what's being done inside the play, and it just creates more story for you later on the line, and it also creates that sense of pressure for your players, which is exactly what you're looking for.
And an opportunity for a cool reward too. So one thing or even cool rewards maybe. One thing I was thinking that could be awesome is like during this rock scene, or maybe during another scene, you could talk about this like sword that the god that Lord Soth served, whether it's like Tyrim or a god that you've made up, or maybe there's a cleric in your party that you've really been wanting to reward, and Soth just so happened to serve the same god. So whatever. Maybe they're in this Battle of the Vrock, like, which doesn't have to, once again, this is a play, so it doesn't have to last until the Vrock is dead. You could have it be just three intense rounds of combat. And maybe after the second round, going into the last round, there's this line that's delivered, and it's like, but Soth drew the blade given to him from Tyrim, or something like that, and one of your players at random, or by choice, whatever you want to do, like, their sword morphs into this, like, crazy great sword that was Soth's, and they're like, what the heck? And they, like, when they hit the Vrock next, the Vrock just instantly dies.
Right. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
So things like that could be awesome. So
you still have that pressure. You still have the transitioning of the story for your players. You still have pacing, which is huge.
And it gives that power too, that there's power in the play being performed right. So like that's why you have to finish it. And maybe this god himself is even like, you can see that he's like, he doesn't like what Soth did. So he, as the play is being performed right, he like steps in to help. And maybe that has to do with performance checks or something like that. So your bard can be like, hey-o, let me say the important lines.
Yeah, exactly. I like the idea that this play presents two sort of different ideas of light and dark, in the sense that each positive action can be represented by a bright flash or a bright light, and each negative action or negative thing that has been successfully achieved by Lord Soth in this play can be represented by a sort of slow, pestilent, like fog that rolls in that's dark. And so I like the contrasting ideas inside of that, and I also like that they still represent sort of darkness being death, light being life, and more or less the truth and the lies that are represented in both of those as well. So it gives us everything that we're looking for in terms of a story. Because I'll be honest, I was like, this one was a tough one for me. You were definitely MVPing on it the whole time. Like I'm just definitely not the MVP on this one, but I was like, man,
really?
this ended up, yeah, I just, you're killing it with these ideas. I was just sitting there going like, well, Rich is the best person of all time, because if we were basing this on me, I'd be like, he's
well, I feel like,
I mean, think about it. I introduced Slods at the beginning.
Yeah, well, the painting one you loved, but this one I'm like, dude, it's like, I'm like, oh man, Edgar Allan Poe, dude, all the stuff I loved about theater, because I was a theater kid growing up. Wasn't a sports guy,
really?
Wasn't but I was in theater. Performed twice in 2 plays.
They said I was the best kid this part of the 3-county area, so I'll tell them next time. Next time you make me the lead man of the Music Man. Okay.
I wasn't the lead man of Music Man. I was Marcellus Washburn. I was the guy who sang Shapoopy. Now, woman, oh, guess my very first date is usually a hushy. Anyway, so sorry, everybody. But I'm excited. I'm excited to plug this one. I'm excited to plug this one into Home Brewery and see what we come up with, because I think
because we can build around Soth, which is really, really fun.
Really fun, and I love the idea too of it's like this. It has a very interesting feel. Like, it's not like you're there and you have to do everything to completion. It's not you have to fight to completion. You have to kill everyone. You have to kill this horde until there's no one left. It's all about the idea of like a round timer. Like, we've got to do this until this part of the play is done. And maybe there's even a play out there that's like perfect for this, and you could even just like take lines from it. Like, this could be something sweet. Lord Soth sounds kind of Macbethy, maybe. So maybe you even just steal some ideas from Macbeth if you guys are out there and you're so inclined. But any final thoughts for you though?
The breakdown of the story more or less is like the beginning is obviously this crazed director says, I need to do this play. It's a must.
Yeah.
And then as they do, they unfortunately summoned Soth to the town, and he says, that's not how this story went in my mind. And he said, and took over from the middle of the play and said, let me tell my version of this story.
Well, even the beginning of the play, like, he shows up to let everyone know, like, you're cursed for listening to this play, like, or you're going to hear my side of the story, and then you will die for whatever.
Right. For just the gall of having even given this the light of day. Like, I can't believe you would even do this. So
yep.
For that, you're punished. So he goes through, introduces the Vrock, which is a really, really key component to it. I really love that idea, especially thematically. It plays in really well. He's introduced a plague to the inside of the outside of the town, so your players can't just leave him be and just say, well, let's go take care of that. We've got to erase the cause of this plague, this infection. The director understands what needs to be done, or there's somebody that understands what needs to be done. So your players play through this play, they go through, they do all these roles, they go through all this stuff, and then finally at the very end they take care of what's needed to be done, and they finalize the play and banish him from that town for good, until he's probably summoned again by some greedy director. But for the time being, everything's good. I love it. I think it actually ended up really being really, really awesome. It's got this deep demonic feel to it, which is really cool. It's a more serious tone of a story, but it's definitely something that can be played in one session as well, which is really, really cool. Like, I've got to play for you guys. Like, this is awesome.
No, I love it. I kind of want to see how soon I can weave it into my personal D&D session, because I'm like, this is something so cool.
No, it's definitely really, really, really good.
And it's something too where actually, like it could even just be that you're like, hey, there's this play going on in this town, and if your players are so inclined, they even just walk into the play. Or there's some characters that are like, hey, we're gonna walk into this play and enjoy it. And then maybe there's some characters who are in the play and like it's going on and they're like contacting the other people, like, you have to get into this theater to help out. There's so many fun ways that this could open up into a cool like session idea that your players, I guarantee, will not expect or see coming.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just something to me that again, we have our centerpiece, right? We have our main bad, and I wouldn't call it big bad, but like it's just, one more hurdle for the players.
Yep.
And this is a big bad that could come back. It could be a recurring big bad.
Exactly.
As well.
Yep.
Yeah. So I like the way that the story ended out, because at first we went through a bunch of different. We had like a parade at the beginning with the Rakshasa riding on that
on a float,
that giant. Yeah. That
pestilent cow publicist.
I think it's the moo cow that had gone sour.
Yeah, exactly. The sour milk cow.
Yeah, he was a 2% evil. What's up? It is my turn this week, actually, to do a synopsis.
Ooh, yeah. All right. Let me get my popcorn. Let me get my. I'll sit into my theater seat, and I'm ready.
I had those installed last week. How do you like them?
They're great. I wasn't ready for it. I do like the reclining feature, although my seat is sticky, so I do have to ask. I have to ask whoever cleans these to do a better job.
Well, I bought it like that. I figured.
Oh, you bought it with the stick because you want me to be glued to what you're saying. Oh, that's 2 puns in one show. Oh, I'm gonna stop.
I'm gonna go kill myself now. So I'm gonna do this from the perspective of Soth himself. Actually.
Ooh, interesting.
Well, at least the actor playing him. So. I stand here before you today, as he looks out to the crowd, as a bad actor. Lord Soth, the greatest warrior of all time. Here I am. I am the man, the myth, the legend. Of course, you all know that, for I have returned.
Ooh.
I am Lord Soth. You dare defile my name with the stories told by these peasants? You shall now learn my tale. Does anybody have water?
Dude, I love that though. That's like that's the way you have to start it. Like anyone out there playing this, that's the way you have to start it, because it's such a dramatic like shift from like, oh, I can obviously tell that this is the actor, and even the actor beforehand can just be being real sleazy with like your characters, and then he's out there performing, and then his attitude, his countenance, like as you're DMing, your posture changes, and everyone in the room's just like, what? Huh?
What?
Like he wasn't that good of an actor.
But now he's fantastic, because obviously, as a DM, dude. Do you stand up while you DM sometimes?
I usually have to. I either have to be standing or I will be like on my knees on the floor, because I have to get that. Because everyone else is sitting and it feels weird to stand, so I'll just be like, during combats I'll usually sit, but during like acting stuff I'll usually like be on my knees because you gotta get the full range of motion.
Man, I am all about the standing. I was actually thinking about, because I wanted to go out to my local comic shop and do some DMing here sooner or later. But I was thinking to myself, like, what are they going to think if this random guy that's DMing for them is just standing up going like, okay, now hear me out.
Oh, no.
They're just like...
Oh, I do that all the time at game stores. Like, I think it's... I think...
Okay, maybe
it keeps me more drawn in.
Hard on myself.
And the biggest thing too is it lets me walk away. It lets me have moments where I'm like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick," and then I go to the bathroom. It's just like hands on my forehead. What the heck is happening? We are so derailed.
And they're like, you should close the door.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, sorry guys. How the heck are we gonna resolve this session?
Oh man, I love this Lord Soth thing now. I think we could. This is easy to run. This is a great little thing to run.
Oh yeah,
this is the play of Lord Soth. What should the play be called? We have to come up with a really cool name for it. Ooh. I don't know any. I'm not that learned on the book learned.
If you have any good ideas for play names, let us know. And also, if you have any good ideas for sessions or for themes and scenarios, please send those in. We actually have a huge list brewing up. But we need to fill a new theme and a new scenario from this week. And when we get to your theme or your scenario, we'll give you a shout out. That's half the fun.
Like today.
Yeah, that's half the fun of these episodes for me, is like looking at our list of things that people have sent in and being like, oh my gosh, I love this idea. Oh my gosh, that theme is so cool. Like one of the ones I'm looking at right now is an empty battlefield. I never would have thought of that, but there's so much stuff to do with that. That's one thing I love about what we're doing is it's so much of a community thing. So please keep sending us ideas.
Yeah.
If you've got cool ideas for this session, you can hop on our Discord, which Cam can tell you the name of, and share ideas with us. We'll credit you in all the stuff. Oh, it's just fill in the gaps. How easy is that? Yeah. Guys, we've made it so easy.
Guys.
So easy.
Yeah. Our iTunes actually received 2 more 5-star reviews. Thank you to whomever that was. Yeah, that was really cool. We didn't actually get any written reviews. That's fine. I don't care. I'm just thankful that y'all are reacting positively to the things that we're doing. We're really, really appreciative. If you do go and leave us a review, it's fantastic. It helps us out immensely. Mm-hmm. Please tell your friends about it. If you're a DM and you have DM friends or you have people that you think would enjoy this, let them know. I think we have something that's going on that's really, really fun.
Yep.
Like Rich said, our community is a lot of fun. And as always, y'all can always follow us on the Twitter. Mm-hmm. You can follow us on the Reddit. We have a pretty cool subreddit. We do release our home breweries every once in a while as well. So all of those things considered, we're just a really thankful bunch.
Yeah.
Rich and I, we're just, because obviously this week has been a lot tougher than most. And everyone was just patient and understanding and really, really cool. And it just, each of those days that I worked really late, all I was thinking about was, I can't wait to get back home.
It is true.
Record. I know it I know it sounds really weird, but at 2:00 in the morning, I texted Rich and was like, I'm ready to record. Like, I will do this right now if we need to.
But yeah, so thanks so much for listening, guys. It's been a lot of fun. We will see you guys on the next episode. Make sure to talk to us on social media. And remember, once we get to 25 reviews, we will do that dice giveaway. So leave those reviews, plug us on social media, and we will see you guys on the next one.